Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Smartling webinar. My name is Adrian Cohn, and I'm the head of marketing at Smartling, and I'm so pleased to be joined by Haristina Rakeva. Hey, how you doing?
Hi, guys. Good. Thank you.
We have people just pouring in to this webinar, which has got incredible demand, and I have no doubt it's because of our special guest. So if you're logging in, let us know where you are logging in from, where in the world you've logged in from. I'm seeing a handful of names and that are very familiar to me, but I'm also seeing a lot of folks who I've never seen before. So it's great to meet you, and thank you for taking your time out of the day to spend it with us. We know you have a lot of options, and it's just wonderful that you're here. And look at this: San Diego, Cordoba, New York City, San Jose, Palma. I love Palma. Look at this. Is it Poland, France? All right. Well, this is an international bunch. So isn't this great, Haristina?
I know. I was worried that we don't have actually many people from Europe. That's how international it is.
Yeah.
Brazil, Argentina.
Well, it's just terrific. I think we'll go ahead and jump in. We'll get started with today's presentation. We've set aside about an hour for the day. Everything you're about to see here is being recorded. It will be available at smartling.com, and it will be in your inbox probably by tomorrow. So let's jump in with Haristina. She's going to be speaking about how to further your localization career. But before we do that, we are just coming off of summer, and we've been on vacation, haven't we? Haristina, where have you been? What have you been doing?
Yeah, I went to the Azores Islands, which is just off the coast of Portugal, and actually somewhere in between the east coast of the States and Europe and Portugal. And it was an amazing time, just a week off to return to nature. And yeah, I was excited. So fully ready to be back and to be doing this together. How about you? I think we have pretty similar views.
We do. Well, we're both in nature, and we've both got these incredible scenes behind us. This photo on the left, I was with my family at Harding Icefield, which is in Alaska. The altitude of this photograph is about 4,000 or 5,000 feet, so about 1,500 meters. And behind us, you see an ice pack that feeds many glaciers in the Kenai Fjords region of Alaska. Super beautiful, tremendously challenging hike. But we want to hear, where did you go? Did you get a chance to travel over the summer? Drop into the chat if you had a chance to visit family, friends, or just get away from it all for a handful of days. I went to Costco. That's something that we all have to do from time to time. Fair enough. Grand Canyon.
I imagine if anyone actually went to either the Azores or to Alaska, any of our listeners today, that would be so funny, such a coincidence. Let's see.
Hawaii is here, Grand Canyon. There are some great vacations to come indeed, as well as we transition out of last year and into the future. But I wanted to spend just a minute or two talking about Smartling. If you're not familiar with Smartling, before we jump into the agenda, we are the company that translates the world's digital content. And we've been doing this for the better part of 11 and a half, 12 years now almost. We have offices around the globe, and we've got over 1,000 customers. And we aim to be the hub or the system of record for global content. And we can advance to the next slide. We have the ability to connect with all of your content repositories, whether they're marketing or product repositories or help centers, centralize them into the translation cloud. And Haristina, we can also jump to the next slide here. We do that through APIs, through a proxy, so that you can use our translation management system, which enables you to manage all things related to translation, from your workflows to linguistic assets, and a CAT tool so that human translators, which we also provide human translation services, all of it can be done in one place, which just makes the entire localization process turnkey and extremely fast and cost effective. So if you want to learn more about SmartLing, feel free to go to our website. You can book a meeting with a member of our team to learn more. And of course, we're going to learn a little bit more about localization today, which I'm really excited about, in particular, how you can advance your career. Stick around to the end. We're going to have an amazing offer at the end of this webinar. But Haristina, we started talking maybe a month or two ago, because you're getting into some new territory where you're going to be helping people achieve their best self in the localization world. So I'm personally very excited for today's agenda, and I'd love to hear more about what you're looking to do. And I'm going to sit back and learn myself.
Great. Well, thanks, Adrian. That was your part of the session. Now I'm taking over. The hard work is about to start for all of us today, because we're going to learn hopefully a lot of things. But before we dive into the session, just wanted to very quickly, I'm Christina. Actually, I'm head of localization at Skyscanner by day. And by night, I do a lot of other things. And one of them is actually career coaching and mentoring. And I wanted to touch a bit on why I started doing this and why I've seen a need to help individuals with that. So there is an exercise that we often do when we start working on our personal and career development, and that is to identify what are our strengths and weaknesses. And something interesting happens when you ask someone to do that exercise on themselves. Oftentimes, the one strength that people tend to overlook is that thing that comes so natural to them that they never think about, that they don't even realize they're good at, or that they do so easily. And funnily also as well, if you tell them about that, they will brush it off, assume it's a common sense, that everyone knows it, everyone does it, but it's not. This is your unique strength and something that really makes you who you are and the value you bring. So the key is to identify what that is and then double down on that. So this is what I did. I knew that I was very creative in different aspects, and particularly when it came to problem solving. I'm really good at generating ideas, potential solutions, possibilities. And I'm also good at writing about my experiences, writing about the work that I've done or my team's work. And those are some of the things that I wanted to help others with. And luckily for all of you guys here on the call today, this is what the workshop is about. To be very creative about positioning yourself strategically and your role, and also creative in talking about yourself and your achievements. And this is the second part, talking about ourselves and our achievements. This is something that actually doesn't come natural to many of us. It's hard to talk about what we're good at and kind of being, almost to give ourselves the feeling of being proud about the skills and capabilities. And it could be harder for different people, especially depending on where we come from, which country, what's our background, our culture, even our gender. We know that it's common for women to struggle with self-promotion, and this is something that holds us back as well. And actually, recently, I gave a talk on the imposter syndrome in a large organization to a group of women. And a lady in the audience asked me, how do I know what my strengths are? And like my immediate answer was, surely if you kind of give yourself the space and time to think, you know that. But then I kept thinking about this question, and it made me think, like, not only is it hard for us to tell others what our strengths are, it almost feels like it's hard to even tell it to ourselves. And this is the other thing I wanted to help people with, to give them the confidence to talk about their skills, and also the skills to talk about your skills. And this part is particularly important when we apply for a new job, when we write a CV, when we interview, right? How do we talk about our accomplishments? And this is why we're doing this workshop today. The team at SmartLing is also passionate about supporting and empowering others, and so am I. So this is why we teamed up, and we are bringing you this session. So before we even start, something else I wanted to share is, we wanted to make this as practical as possible. So what I did is kind of look back from my experience, things that have worked for me and things that I've seen that have worked for others, and kind of use those and hopefully to inspire you to try different things for yourself, and see what will work for yourself. And one thing as well to call out is, usually if we decide that either we want, in our current role, we want to go for promotion, we want to put ourselves for promotion and start working towards that, or maybe if we want to go to a different company with a higher level and higher role, the common and expected thing is we need to start tackling bigger problems. We need to create and bring bigger impact to our organization. We need to work, cross-functionally at different levels within the company. So these are almost for granted. So what I will share today is really looking strategically and using like those strategies or ideas that I'm going to share is using them as strategic levers that you can propel almost your career even faster. And this is sort of a skill set and a mindset that we can learn, that we can use at any role, at any company. And actually, I think we should be using them all the time. So before we dive into those skills, one thing as well, kind of almost to take a step back and even think of what does it mean to grow your career? What does it mean to progress? And I just wanted to kind of give a few different examples because we oftentimes tend to think very linear. Like we start as within our space as localization project managers, we move to managers, senior manager, head, director, and it's sort of like linear and almost gives us this almost like an idea there's only one way to do that, and they are different. So one way to look at career kind of growth and progression is to look at the difference between individual contributor and leader. So you can, maybe if your special power is quality or tools and processes, and you love doing that, you can remain, within that space, just grow your skill set, grow your competence, and grow also as a different levels within that space. Or you can, become a leader or a manager, you start leading a big team. And this is, maybe your skill set there, your superpower is being able to define a vision for a team, for a discipline, to define strategy long-term. Another way to look at career progression is instead of looking vertically, looking at it horizontally or laterally. And I like kind of keeping an eye on how people develop within the industry. And these are 3 examples of professionals within our industry that I've seen how they develop their career over the years. It's something that I'm really curious how people do that. So I keep an eye on that. And the first person, so these are 3 real people from our industry. The first person started as a localization manager. In their next role, they took over content together with localization. And in their next role after that, they became head of content design, so completely different. And again, similarly, another localization manager was head of localization and customer experience. And with their next role, head of international. A different individual, a bit of a different path. So from localization, they took on UX writing and content design, and later moved into product design. So just almost like a permission to give ourselves the permission to think differently, like what are our strengths, and being able to expand laterally and still grow our career and give ourselves more opportunities. Great. So with that, let's then now dive in. We're going to look at 3 things and 3 sections of this workshop. And within each of these, we have examples of what those are and why they're important. But one thing to know and to remember actually is when we grow into our career and the more senior we become, including in localization, domain knowledge becomes less and less important and less impactful. Of course, we still need to know our craft and industry inside out, but domain knowledge alone will not get us to the next level and will not help us get to the next level. So also because the more senior we become, the more we're expected to have broader impact. And this is why career development becomes a strategic approach. And when I say strategic, I don't want to look at it from the negative sometimes connotation that this might have when people might think of, playing games, manipulating, being strategic in that sense. No, it's really just more about being conscious and proactive of how we demonstrate our knowledge and how we demonstrate our achievements, how we connect with others in a strategic and a more intentional way. So this is what we'll look at today through those examples. And before we dive into those, let's maybe ask our audience today if this is something that you have particularly experienced in your career. Have you been in a situation where you realize that just localization competence were not enough to get you to the next level, that maybe there was an opportunity you wanted to get and you couldn't, and you realized that maybe you lacked that strategic approach? Did you even think about that? Because sometimes we might be in a situation like this, and and we don't even realize why this has happened, and we look back, and now that's maybe we talk about it, you realize probably that's what happened back then. So we have the poll up, and so yes, we have, wow, 81%. Great, I mean, great, because you're in the right place. We have 8% that they haven't felt that, which is good, and maybe they have some tips they can share with us throughout the session. And yeah, 10%, sorry, I'm not, I don't think I'm sharing. No, maybe, yeah, no. And 10% not sure if this has happened, and hopefully maybe with the examples now, they'll get that clarity. Great. So all of those, we are right in the good spot, in the right webinar today. All right, starting with the first category, and that's all about being strategic about our relationships. And as localization managers, of course, we all know we work with a lot of stakeholders. But I think looking, at those relationships that we have with our stakeholders, we actually don't necessarily leverage those relationships. We support them, we work with them on a daily basis, but we don't make the most of them. And this is what this part of the webinar will be about: how to work cross-functionally, but in a way that you can position yourself strategically with them to be seen as a contributor. And here, when we talk about positioning yourself, I don't mean, in the examples we're going to look at, it's not so much about localization in general as a discipline, positioning localization or positioning your team, but it's really about you as an individual, because you want to put yourself forward and build that authority we'll look at later, but that position with others. So it's about you as an individual. And what we're going to look at is how to look at other disciplines as your allies. And there are 3 ways that you can do that. One is to pair with other disciplines. And by that, I mean to promote each other. So one thing that we all know very well in localization, we often talk how we're not taken in consideration early on, we're at the very end of the process, that we're not part of maybe the meetings with them we need to be part of. And I felt it before, that almost we felt that this is something so unique to us and so personal. But the more you speak to other disciplines, you realize there's just so many other complete different disciplines that feel exact same way and in the same position. And you see that from conversations. So depending on your organization, it could be UX writing team, could be accessibility lead, product marketing, research. These are, I've heard from those disciplines particularly, how they, exactly like we do, try to be part of the right conversations. So a good way to position yourself is to pair with them and support and promote each other. So if those individuals or disciplines in your company that do want to be part as well early on, and maybe you happen to be in those conversations, you can call them out and call out the organizers of the group and say, well, actually, we need also UX writing team to be here, or we also need the product marketing team to join us. So be promoters for each other, because they will also promote you. Another way as well to work with them and to support each other is to learn from them. And by that learn, I don't mean, learn about different skills and knowledge, say about UX writing or design, but learn from how they do the things that we also need to do. Again, coming back to visibility, adoption, these are things that those disciplines also do. Example from my experience working is, we have an amazing accessibility lead at Skyscanner. And in her job, very similar to us, she is part of different meetings, raises awareness about the need for the company to take care or to think about accessibility, about what it takes to adopt that and to build for users with needs. And this is something that I learn from her and take ideas. And what I help her with is how to build a strategy, something that I've done that I can support with. So be promoters for each other. And learn from them. Coincidentally, I came across just yesterday this event that is happening, and it's again just coincidentally on accessibility, but it's about how to build a champions program. And if you're not familiar, a champions, like, could be localization champions program, is you build a community of individuals who are curious about localization or accessibility. You share things that you've done within the company, and there you support us across your organization, because these could be people from different disciplines. So, even joining a meeting or an event like that to learn more about how to set up a program, why is that beneficial, looking at other disciplines and learning from them how they do things that we also need to do. So seek the solutions outside of our immediate or your immediate discipline. Another way to build strategic relationships is to help others. So as a localization team, we have a very unique position. Very few other individuals or disciplines within the company have that visibility that we do across the whole organization. We know like what's kind of company strategy, what different teams are working on, projects that are happening, and this is something so unique for us. So we can help others with that. And when I say help, it's not about effort and doing things for them, but rather insights. Oftentimes, I bring to my counterparts in other disciplines things that I have learned, that's projects that are coming up that they might have not heard that are relevant for them. Another way to help them is kind of see, as you work with different teams, you can connect the dots for them. Oftentimes teams that you might work that happen not to work with each other, and you see either similarities or challenges that they're both dealing. So kind of bring those together for them and connect the dots for them, where by doing that, they see you as someone that brings value beyond your immediate discipline and your skill set. Another way to help them is kind of looking beyond our day-to-day and our own function as a localization and focus on the organization as a whole, and kind of being able to look at the aspirations for the future and how do we see certain challenges that we can help and together can bring that. And the third way to do that is to learn, in this case, about other disciplines and what they do. So again, being strategic in how you leverage your relationships with those disciplines. Questions that we can ask when we talk to someone from a different discipline or a different part of the organization is understanding what do they currently work on, what they do fits within the business as a whole, what are their goals and challenges, and you can see ways that you can support them. But it's also important to learn, even if it's high level, but what is that those disciplines do, what it is like high level of your organization's kind of strategy, where is your organization going, what are your maybe competitors, like really become an expert as well in your company's vision and strategy. Because the more senior we become, the more we expect you to be a rounded expert and a rounded leader. So to have these insights as a whole at a company level. And you see that maybe in the industry, but a few people that I've seen talk at different events, one of them is the head of localization at Tinder. If you listen to him talk at events, he obviously talks about localization, but also oftentimes refer about just e-commerce and online behavior in communities or dating or international growth and expansion. So topics that are broader beyond our space, and again create the impression that you are an expert beyond your immediate expertise. So that's the first part, and this is like some examples how to cultivate strategic relationships. And we mentioned help others, learn about them, and also promote them and pair with them. So before we move on, I thought it would be good to kind of take a pause here a bit and see if any of this resonates with you. And if anyone feels courageous either to maybe share an example, you can unmute yourself or write in the chat. Did you have kind of a story in your experience where you succeeded by being strategic? So a bit similar to the poll that we had. So maybe by applying strategic kind of collaboration or approach, and you managed to achieve either putting forward your ideas or getting someone on board. Anyone wants to share an example of this, or maybe now seeing opportunities, how you can do that differently within your teams or within your discipline? I can also share an example while we're waiting, maybe, but maybe just 10 more seconds. Anyone wants to to share?
I'll join just for a second to help people think through an opportunity they may wish to share. We'll keep it all within the group, right? It looks like we did get one though in the chat. I formed a localization working group with one person from design, one person from product, and one from engineering.
That's amazing to get all of these different disciplines in one place voluntarily. It's an amazing achievement.
Yeah, that's a great one, and that's there's a methodology called design thinking, which is inclusive of bringing people from different disciplines in to solve problems. And I really like this example that Monique offered, because that's effectively what you did. You utilized the design thinking methodology to solve that challenge that you're working on there. That's really cool.
Yeah, an example I was going to share is in my kind of a few years ago back in my role, we didn't have a UX writing actually team. We didn't even have UX writers. And speaking with the head of design, and they shared that they are hiring a lead for the UX writing space. So what I did back then is I reached out to that person in LinkedIn before they even joined, introduced myself. And when they came to the company, obviously I was already in the company a few years before them. So I had the context of how we've worked before with content, with UX writing. So almost like took this as to support them and to build that relationship from the very beginning. And obviously for them was beneficial because they didn't know the organization, the challenges, and I could provide so many insights. And later that person was head of copy. So as a localization lead, very crucial to have that person's support in the years later. So it was strategic of me to do that at the very beginning.
Totally. We've got two more in the chat. I'll read them. One said, not done yet, but trying to partner with data people to push for adding a new locale. I'd love to hear more about that. What sort of data are you looking for, and how do you anticipate trying to partner with the data team? Maybe you can unpack that while I read the second entry here. I have a master's in French, now PhD, soon in the same domain, and I have pitched myself as a French-English translator at many places, but I have succeeded more as a Hindi translator. Interesting. Hindi being one of my native languages and gets me more work than French.
Yeah, this is a bit different to some of the things that we discussed, but even actually in this, you can maybe pair with someone else and either another translator maybe that is working in the things coming off the top of my head now, but another translator that maybe is working in the same domain or maybe has the same language pair as you. And I guess this is just the main message, pair with others. Could be a discipline or someone that has done something similar like you, and learn from them and use them maybe to refer you or to support you.
Terrific, terrific. We've got a few more comments here, but maybe for time's sake, we keep going and we enjoy the comments. Feel free other people to jump in and comment as well.
Great. Well, thanks for those willing to share their examples. Great. Moving on to the next part, which is around building authority and positioning yourself as a thought leader and an expert. And again, we want to kind of find different creative ways to show that to our organization. So these are 4 examples and 4 stories pretty much that I'll share from my experience and how I've done that. Again, very, very specific things that I have done. And I just, by sharing those, I wanted more to give an opportunity to, as almost like an inspiration, or just to get some ideas for you then, to see what that would mean for you and how you can do that yourself in your own way and in your own organization. So the first one is to fill in the blanks where there is a need. And just as I mentioned in my example with our UX writing lead coming in the organization years ago. So at the beginning when I started, we had no UX writer, no UX writing team. And a lot of us on the call here know that this is crucial, because if our English content is not great, then the translation isn't either. And obviously I believed in that, and I wanted to raise awareness about this. And what I did is, so these are just screenshots of my Slack from 3 years ago. What I did is I wanted to invite external speakers, experts on UX writing, to internal talks at the company. I organized in total 4 events where I got UX writers from companies like Typeform, King, Monzo Bank, Oracle, and they just gave a talk on UX writing. So this is the part where you as a localization expert, you see an opportunity that someone else either is not solving or that is impactful to be solved. And even though it's not your space and your area of responsibility, you take that opportunity. And by doing that, of course, it raises awareness about your proactivity, about being beyond your kind of responsibilities and what's expected of you. Another way to do that is to bring learnings from the industry to your organization. And we obviously these days we have so many events on localization. We have lots of articles and blogs, and we read a lot as professionals as well. But I think what we don't do enough is first, bringing that knowledge to our team, sharing with our team, and being able to apply some of those learnings within our role. But even better is bringing those learnings beyond our team and sharing with other teams that this might be relevant for. So my example that I did was, and probably some of you would have seen a few months ago, Netflix shared that they built almost an add-on to their experimentation tool that allowed writers and localization team to experiment and test copy, which is obviously amazing tool, amazing achievement. And what I did then is, after we also discussed that with my team, but I shared this in our channel with the product managers within the company. And I actually also tagged the product manager who owns our experimentation tool in-house. And I was like, this is what Netflix is doing, and this is why it's important. Do you want to chat about it? And unfortunately, that person left the company after a month or two. We didn't get to push this forward. And then I did it again. Just 2 weeks ago, I reached out to the overall, we have an experimentation group within the organization, and I shared with them the same thing. This is the tool from Netflix. By the way, also Pinterest have an amazing experimentation tool. And also the point of, I know we cannot do this now, but just as an inspiration for us in the future. And this is the team that owns the experimentation tool, and actually now having conversations with them. How can we improve our tool to allow for copy experimentation? So bringing those learnings that we have from the industry and sharing broader so that others can see us, that our experience and impact goes beyond our space. Something else that I've done is I want to bring our organization to a space where we actually have international product, and our international product is almost optimized per market. So we're nowhere near there, but I think this is something that we should aim for. And of course, this is within product and leadership and design. But nevertheless, I'm leading those conversations and I'm inciting those conversations. So what I did is I gathered a list of companies that do that very well. And you probably have read a lot of articles about Shopify. They do amazing in this space. So I just brought a page with all those companies that do that. And I shared with our leadership team, with our VP of design, with our leaders in product. And like, this is what others do. We need to start thinking about this. So again, just bringing those examples and sharing. And then a bit the opposite, when a lot of us talk at events, there are just a lot of opportunities to that event, podcasts, we write articles. So bringing those back to our organization and showing them that we not only are we experts internally, but we also appreciate it as experts, and we have authority externally within this industry and our discipline. And also, by doing that, let's face it, everyone is amazed how people have the courage to speak and at events especially. So, they will appreciate your effort. So a way to do that is to share about your speaking activity. So this is my first ever speaking activity, was actually at a product conference. So I shared with our product team. And here's a tip, by the way. It is super cringy to go and say, hey guys, look at me, I spoke at an event. It feels so uncomfortable. So a good way to do that is, instead of just sharing, you can say, or by the way, I spoke at an event and this is what I learned, or this is what's super interesting for us. So always putting it from the perspective of learning, and this is what I did. I spoke at an event. This is my first time speaking. These are my learnings. So I'm also telling them I did speak at an event. So just sharing that. Another way that you can do that, so this is a screenshot from our internal company space, and these are all the articles and blogs I've read throughout maybe the last few years internally. And you can do that as well. This is one that we've done my team. So my team is called Tigan. And what we did, we published a whole blog, a whole article of all the events we spoke at, me, myself, several people from our team throughout the last few months, just to share with the company. We also do quarterly newsletters, and even within those newsletters, as like these are the things we achieved, we share our speaking activities. So just ways to do that. But also, how do you promote your team's work? Again, example could be newsletters, but remember to promote your own individual work. So things that I've done beyond my space is I've wrote about the talk I gave at the imposter syndrome. I wrote an article about International Women's Day with different references to support and to learn. And I also wrote an article about a workshop that we did on giving feedback. So just positioning yourself and showing your impact beyond localization for people again to think of you as a rounded expert. And by the way, interestingly or not, those articles actually got more likes and more engagement than any localization one. So even just that as a way to talk about non-localization things, you get even more visibility within the company sometimes. So these were just a few examples and ways to do that. And again, I don't want this to be like, these are all the amazing things I've done. It's not that, and it feels, again, awkward even saying that, but it's rather, these are some of the things that you can do. And there's just so much more that you can make work for you and do it in a way that resonates with you, just ideas that you can take and hopefully be able to apply. That was the second part of our session, and we're moving on to the third one. And that's all about how to remain competitive. Because even if you're not looking for an opportunity right now, there might be opportunities that arise and you need to be ready at any moment. And luckily for us, I'm sure you've noticed, we've got recently so many companies are hiring for localization managers, which is amazing. It's just crazy that every day I see new and new roles advertised. So yeah, we need to be ready if we do see something that we're interested in. So there are three ways that I'm going to look at how to remain competitive. And the first one is networking. So yeah, we've all heard, we know it is important to have a good network, to have people that we can rely on. But something that I realized as I was looking back at my own kind of approach to networking is sometimes I feel, at least I have done that myself, that I focus or I just get into this, the flow that after events, I connect with people, but I don't necessarily follow up with them. And I realize that I have only a few people that I have very kind of deep and close enough relationship that I can maybe reach out. And ideally, we want to have those closer collaborations or closer relationships when maybe I'm working on something and I don't know how to go about it. So you can reach out to someone, oh, have you done that? Or have you used this tool? How did you go about that? Or even, I'm looking for a new job. Would you mind having a look at my CV? So, having this relationship, this type of relationship that can allow us for those conversations. So what we're going to do, it's super exciting. We wanted to help you build some relationships that would be those that you can maybe take into the future and use in the future to rely on each other. So what we're going to do is do breakouts. We have a lot of people on the call. We're going to do breakouts of 3 people randomly selected, and you have 5 minutes where we can meet each other, share who you are, what do you do, and hopefully there will be an opportunity to build a relationship. It's almost as a matchmaking to see if you're a match. Build a relationship and hopefully take that further and become sort of localization buddies that you can support each other and help each other in the future. So let's see how that will go. I think it's a really great idea. So we're going to launch the breakouts now, I think, and you have 5 minutes to do that.
I'm sure we're getting this organized. It looks like we might be having an issue. Let me see if I can get this started. I don't actually see the option here. So perhaps we have a slight technical problem with getting the breakouts done. So, how do we pivot here? Let's see. Let's do it all together. It's a great idea. Why don't we, how about this? We haven't done this before, but why don't we invite somebody to come off of mute and perhaps give a little bit of background, and we'll maybe, Ristina, you can do a little interview. That sound good?
Yeah, I was thinking, or we can have someone come off, they share maybe something that they're right now working on and they need help with, and maybe someone else from the audience that maybe has done that before can then come on the call as well and share. So it's sort of that pairing, we can make that happen.
I love that idea. So if you see the button at the bottom of your screen that says raise hand, go ahead and click that if you want to join us on the call, or go into the chat and just say, I'll volunteer. And that would work as well. So
we also had, in the meantime, sorry, while someone's getting the courage to do that, in the meantime, we had someone suggest to share our contacts here on the chat, which is a good idea as well. So maybe feel free to share also a link to your LinkedIn, and if you're open for others to connect with you afterwards. Thanks, Rita, for suggesting that. So we have two options then. We have people, if you're happy to do that, share your LinkedIn, and we also have someone just raise their hand.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hello. Thanks. I'm really bad at networking, so thank you for inviting me. So my name's Simon. I'm an LPM for a sort of a carpooling company in France, but we're in 22 countries. So that's a lot of content, I guess. And right now I'm looking at possibly adding a new language to a region that has several. So I'm kind of trying to see what angles I could bring to the table when I talk to upper management about this type of investment. And right now I'm thinking about partnering up with the data team that's sort of working on that same region, but from a different angle, from a more of like, what does the market look like for us right now, what the recommendations are. And I mean, I haven't met with them yet. I've seen their deck, and I'm trying to kind of see where I can tie strings between their initiative and my initiative, so that it stronger together.
Well, thanks so much, Simon, for taking the first step here, sharing. And it's a really interesting example, actually, and a very challenging one. So adding a new language within a company that has several official languages, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's see if anyone on the call has had experience in doing that. Also, if you've had and maybe you don't feel like sharing now, you can directly ping privately Simon as well, and you can share maybe your LinkedIn or just chat to him as well. But if anyone wants to share how they went about this. Because something that I've found helpful in the past is, it's great that you're looking at collaborating with different disciplines, so getting insights from the data team. So the more things you can bring back to either to the team or to the leadership to get the support. One thing as well is helpful is examples of how others have approached it and build that use case. But let's see if anyone has done that. It is a next level really challenge. Yeah,
definitely. I'm certain that we've got some good ideas on this call. Maybe as we wait for someone to warm up, and again, you could raise your hand, or you could go ahead into the chat and say, I've got some feedback for Simon, and we'll unmute you. What first comes to mind for you, Ristina? How would you start to tackle this?
Well, I guess it depends from what perspective we want to look, but to a degree is even understanding maybe from experience and cultural point of view, because we know certain countries like maybe Belgium, Switzerland, there are several official languages, but maybe to what degree are people particularly sensitive to the other language? So maybe say Belgium, you only have French available. Would they feel particularly annoyed if you don't have Dutch or Flemish either? So kind of understanding a bit from that cultural perspective. if that is something that is a touchy subject there, and if that is a good reason to go about the two languages.
That's a good point. Well, maybe in the interest of time, because we have about 15 more minutes, why don't we keep going? And if anyone else has feedback for Simon, feel free to drop it into the chat.
Great. Oh, thanks so much, Simon. Great. So first part of remaining competitive was networking, and there are different ways to do that. And next we'll look at is how to write, how to approach a CV. And one thing that I like doing is a master, what I call a master CV. That's about, we might not be looking necessarily for a job right now, but it's good to be ready to do that. And something that's helpful is as you work on different projects, you maybe every month you take a check-in and add to that master CV new projects that you've worked on, new achievements that you had in the last month or so. So kind of keep those ideas fresh. And also this master CV is almost like a collection of everything that you've ever done and worked on. And when you find a new opportunity, then you almost do this mix and match. What are those things that I've done? And what are those that are from all of them? What those are relevant for this role actually? So it's just having everything in one place where you can easily adjust if you need to. Next thing that is also very important, if you take just one thing out of this workshop, and that should be it. So I'm going to show a few examples of CVs that I've seen in the past, but this one is super crucial. Most often what people do when writing about their job role, their role or what their responsibilities were, it's actually a description of the role itself. So things like if you're a project manager, things like project manage end-to-end localization workflow, work with stakeholders to understand needs, take care of quality, glossaries, and tone of voice. Yeah, this is what a project manager does, right? This does not tell me anything. What did you do particularly as an individual? So imagine if 50 people apply for a project manager role and they all have done the same thing that they have, and they have the exact same CV. How would you stand out? How do you show what you have done? So instead of just adding a list of what the project manager does, call out examples and projects and achievements that you have done. And I'm going to show a few examples in a bit. So focus on the achievements and not the list of the tasks. And the last thing is we often get questions around, but can I be creative, and how creative is, too creative? And I personally am all up for creativity and showing your personality. Maybe in the template of your CV, maybe in the language, being a bit more talking about yourself and experience in your introduction in a more creative and conversational way, just showing your personality to show through. And yeah, if you have a cool CV, it will not get you the job if you're not relevant for the job, of course. But if you are relevant and your experience is relevant, and there may be a few other people that are similar way as you, having a cool and creative CV will make you stand out, because this is on a subconscious level, we like things that are different and that catch our attention. So let's just go through 3 examples of what not to do when we write CV. So this is just a snapshot of someone's job description. And even so, that's a part of that CV. So the whole CV is full of text that is not structured, a lot of text that's just one row again. So it's so hard, even just to read through it, let alone to really understand. So please don't do that. There's so many ways that you can make it easier to read. So maybe have bold words where you want to call out specific things, or maybe categorize, especially if you've been in a role for a long time and you've done a lot of things. Maybe you can have a mini category of project management or tools and processes, and just call out things that you've done within setting up tools and processes, and another category of quality and examples of that, but just in any way that it can be broken down and easier to read and to scan through and to structure it better. This is an example of what I've just mentioned. So this is someone's CV around what they've done as a project manager. Project management, team management, translation memories, and terminology databases. Again, yes, this is what a project manager does. So how can you do that differently? Maybe team management, if we take that as an example, you can call out how many people did you manage, what were their levels, what were their disciplines, what did you do that made their life better, like maybe manage the team of 6 across X number of locations. Overall team satisfaction is X%, or overall X number of people from my team were promoted to a senior level. So anything that you did that made a difference, instead of just calling out that you manage people. And this is another example from someone else's CV. So that's great, because very briefly what they talk here is, they are proactive in the industry, they bring knowledge from the industry into their organization, and they also work with leadership to build business cases and presentations. So that's great. But again, it doesn't tell much about that specific thing. So if you attend our webinar and you go back to your organization and you do something related to this, you can, after attending a webinar, I implemented a process within my team that led to X, Y, and Z. So specific example of what it is that you did, or I prepared and presented X number of business cases or presentations to X number of leadership team over X number of months. So anything that tells about your experience. And I'm going to go quickly to the last one. I'm just conscious of time, so we have enough for questions. And the last part to remaining competitive is interviews, of course. So first, again, important, just as in the CV, it's always when it comes to interviews, and that's the impact. So as you talk about your experience and what you've done and the achievements and accomplishments, it's all about what was the impact of that? What was the outcome, the result? What is it that exactly that you did that led to that? So really focusing on the impact and being able to articulate that in your own contribution. Because oftentimes we're very conscious and we tend to talk as a team, we did this and we did that, but the interview is a time to show your experience. So feel absolutely free and confident to speak about, I did this and I did that, and this is what my contribution, like to show your contribution. Another thing that we are also often told is to ask questions at the end of the interview. But it's not about just ask for the sake of asking. Make sure that those questions will give you information. And things that I usually advise people is ask about the team you're applying. What are their challenges? How big is the team? What tools do they use? What are their achievements? What are their vision and strategy? Because understanding about that, then your answers, you can adjust your answers later based on what you've learned about the team. For example, if they mention, what are the team's challenges, and the hiring manager says, well, right now we're struggling to get buy-in from, say, product management, and this is your opportunity to jump in and say, oh, that's good to know, because actually I've done something similar to this. So by asking questions, you can use it as an opportunity to say additional things that you've done that maybe you didn't mention, and turn this into a conversation. And the last thing is, I know we're not always in the position to be picky and to wait for the right company. Luckily we will be all in that situation, but you still remember that you are also interviewing the company, and you're also interviewing the interviewer and the hiring manager. So make sure you ask questions to get an understanding about the culture, and how they support individuals within the team, and what opportunities you have for growth, and how you would feel with that person as a manager. And that was it. These are the 3 big categories that we went through. I felt like I really rushed through all of this because I just had so many examples I wanted to share, but hopefully this gave you ideas, how to position yourself strategically by partnering, by promoting and learning from other disciplines, how to build your authority by showing your knowledge beyond your team, and being confident to talk about your contribution, and just how to remain competitive, so that's when you see that dream job shows up on LinkedIn tomorrow, you can apply and be ready to present yourself well. So thanks so much. I'm going to take a sip and a breath, and Adrian, I see you're ready to take it from here.
Yeah, I'll cover for you while you have a little water there. You've shared so much incredible knowledge. Thank you for this fantastic presentation. And thanks again to everybody who's joined us today. We know you have a lot of options with your time, and we're certainly very grateful for your having spent it with us. We will take your questions in just a moment. If you have questions, drop them into the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom window. That will be the easiest place for us to find those questions. Before we get to them, though, I wanted to share we have a special offer. I mentioned at the very beginning of the call that we were going to have an offer for all of you who are here. We mentioned that Ristina is hard at work helping other people now grow their careers in localization. And so we are going to sponsor 5 coaching sessions with Ristina, hour-long coaching sessions. And all you have to do is schedule a meeting with SmartLink, have a meeting with us, learn a little bit about what we do. This applies to customers and potential users of SmartLink from the client side. Kelsey is going to drop right now into the chat a link where you can book a meeting. And the first 5 people will get an hour-long coaching session on us with Ristina, which I think is going to be awesome. So Kelsey, she's dropped in the link, smartlink.com/ and then you see the little pound, see it in action. And if you are already a customer of SmartLink, it still applies. Just have a meeting with your success manager, ask about something new that we've done. It doesn't matter. This is for everybody, and we'd love to have you join us. Okay, let's go to questions. We've got 3 questions so far. I'm going to tackle one of them. Can we share the PowerPoint? We're going to make this presentation available on our website. You'll get an email with it a little bit later. Thank you for that question, Maria. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. How to become an authority being an introvert? How do you become an authority being an introvert? Isn't it easier said than done? Tips to get started small. I think that answer is already in the message. What do you think?
Tips to start small, right? Amazing question. I'm so happy we get to answer. We have time to answer that. Some of the things that I shared, I think is super applicable. First, do it in a way that feels natural and right for you. But maybe instead of giving presentations, you can write a blog, write about your experience externally or internally. So writing is very, very, in a way, easy way to talk about something without actually having to talk and to be in the spotlight. Another thing is work in smaller groups, maybe, or one-to-one individually. And oftentimes, especially these days, in organizations, we are on Slack and just quick conversations versus meeting. Maybe start to build a relationship with someone on Slack over time. Just ping them, share about your role and what you do and why you think you can collaborate, or just share something with them that is relevant, and building a bigger relationship on chat. And over time, you can feel maybe that you have a better relationship and reach out and have a meeting or a session together. And these are just 2 things that come to mind immediately. If anyone, maybe in the audience as well, has ideas, or Adrian, if anything comes to mind to you. But maybe kind of just something else as well. If you want to give a presentation, maybe you can record yourself and record a presentation and just share that and play that with that team or company meeting instead of speaking on the spot.
Yeah, I think again, the answer is really in the question. Start small. Use a medium that's comfortable to you. It doesn't have to be a PowerPoint. It doesn't have to be, a webinar. It could be, a podcast. It could be writing, your thoughts in a blog article. There are so many mediums through which you can communicate a message and start developing authority in a space. So choose the medium that's most comfortable to you. Before we get to the next question, maybe let's just jump to the next slide so that if people have to drop off, they know that if you loved this workshop as much as we think you might have, we have another workshop with Ristina on October 7th. You could register for it with the link that Kelsey just dropped in the chat. You can also go to smartlink.com/globalready and you'll find the event listed there. What are you going to be speaking about at the next workshop, Ristina?
Yeah, so while this today was more on you as an individual and how to build your position, your authority as an individual, as a leader, The next one we do is really more focused on as a localization discipline, especially if you're a leader and you're leading your localization area within your company. So how to position your team, how to get buy-in. And, the key thing actually I'm going to tell, a little spoiler, is, oftentimes we talk about buy-in and we think if we get leadership buy-in, that's it, our problems are solved and localization smooth sailing, but it's not. We need to be doing that kind of buy-in at a different level with different disciplines all the time. So this is what we're going to look at, how to do that with all different levels within the organization.
I love it. I love it. Maybe in 30 seconds, Christina, because we're at the bottom of the hour. If you're a translator and you want to get to a project manager role or a coordinator role, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you should be doing?
I have already a few ideas. First, learn about all the tools that localization project managers use. So tools like SmartLink, other TMSs on the market. And luckily for us, like all the providers have like amazing databases of knowledge. So you can do demos, you can learn, you can learn about the tool even without using it or having had experience, because these are the tools that project managers use. So familiarize yourself with the tools before that. And the other thing is just what I recommend work with some of my clients is like work on what are the skills and strengths of a maybe translator, and what are the skills and requirements for a project manager, and where you overlap and where you need to develop an additional maybe skill. So transferring the skills and making them the ones that you have relevant to the new role. And it's also about the communication. How do you convince someone that knows that you don't have that experience that you can do that, because you can? So how we talk about our achievements and our skills.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina. Thank you everybody for the questions and the engagement throughout today's webinar. I'm already getting a lot of inquiries on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. Feel free to connect with Christina, connect with one another. We'll see you on October 7th. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the engagement. It was amazing.
Bye.
Bye.